How's it going, guys? Cody back again, dropping yet another video. Right, guys, this time it's a story in the Huffington Post. I never really cover stories by the Huffington Post, but this one's very newsworthy, so I'm going to cover it. I'm going to put a link in the description below like I always do. It's about prisoners leaving prison that are having to claim benefits, because obviously if you've been in prison and you've been working, is your job really going to be there after you get out? Unless it's a family friend or something. No, it's not. And like I say, by the delays of everything of the universal credit and the benefit system being flawed like it is, it's setting prisoners up to fail. So they have to resort to crime to feed themselves, to feed their habits, or to even feed their families. So the headline reads, Universal credit, prisoners lured back into crime by benefit delays. Everything has to be done online, and I don't even know how to send a text, one offender said. You've got to remember, guys, a lot of these offenders have got a reading age of like a 9-year-old or 11-year-old. Offenders recently freed from prison are being pushed back into poverty and tempted back into a life of crime due to a delay in receiving benefits, the Huffington Post UK has been told. Prisoners cannot currently make a claim for new universal credit benefits whilst they are in jail and have to wait until they are released. But with around a 5-week wait to receive money, campaigners warn the system is setting people up to fail at their most vulnerable moments when they leave prison, and claim former offenders may be tempted back into a criminal behaviour to support themselves. Although the switchover for existing benefit claimants is being slowly phased in, those who are new to benefits or have experienced a change in circumstances are going straight on universal credit. Some offenders say they don't understand the system, which is being administrated online, and are struggling to survive while they wait for payment. All prisoners in the UK are issued with a £46 discharge grant on release, but this figure has not changed for 15 years. Huffington Post has spent 2 days at the food bank in Preston, where staff revealed increasing numbers of former prisoners are coming in to them in need. Mayor Alex Carden, local leader of the Salvation Army, said once people are released from custody, it will have to make universal credit claim, and that takes time. And then there's a story here about a former prisoner by the name of William Appleton, who is 63 years old. The headline on this little sub story, easy for me to say, I fear I'll end up back in jail. William Appleton is 63 and has had many run-ins with the law, but is determined to have a fresh start upon his recent release. However, as he admitted to the Huffington Post UK, whilst waiting to receive a food parcel from the Salvation Army food bank in Preston, he fears he will end up back in jail. Appleton from Preston was released from prison a few weeks ago. He told us, I've been in and out of prison all my life for theft. When I came out this time, I was told about universal credit, but I still don't know how it works. They're basically saying I can't get any help for 5 to 6 weeks. Everything has to be done online, and I don't even know how to send a text. I have many health issues and have been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, alcohol dependency and bladder cancer, and was signed off indefinitely. My argument is that before I went into custody, they had all my records and everything they needed to know. Why can't I get all that information and update it for my new universal credit application? But as far as they're concerned, I'm a new person, so I have to go back to my doctor and start from day one. I wanted a fresh start from crime this time, but I came out of jail with just £46 and I'm struggling, so I had to go to a food bank to eat. I feel with this universal credit they're setting me up to fail, and I feel I'm going to end up back in prison. Cadigan said, I know the prison service is working really hard to get people to rehabilitate and to get a point where people are ready and able to return into the community. If those released from custody are having to wait for money to live on, it is difficult for them to rehabilitate, and people may be tempted to reoffend in order to survive. Nicola Hawkes, the food bank coordinator at South Liverpool Food Bank, said, we do see people who recently released from prison coming to us. I remember one gentleman coming in, he'd been released and he hadn't eaten for 2 days. He opened a can of corned beef from his food parcel right in front of us and started eating it. At that moment, we were only just into universal credit in our area, and we are concerned about anything which might impact on our numbers. In Manchester, the Amy Archie project manager at the Central Food Bank there said, we've also seen recently released prisoners who are waiting for their universal credit to come through. They face a 5-week waiting period or are given an advance payment, which is taken out when they do receive the payment, she said. When people are trying to get back on their feet and reintegrate back into society, this is not helpful, and depending on their circumstances, it is going to put more pressure on them. If someone is desperate and struggles to feed themselves or feed their families, this is not going to keep them away from crime, Archie said. They are setting people up to fail. There's a window of opportunity on release from prison for people to move away from crime, said Helen Beresford, the Director of External Engagement at NARCO, a national charity helping disadvantaged people. But one of the big challenges they see is recent released offenders is access to immediate financial support. All prisoners are given a £46 discharge grant upon release, but this figure has not changed for 15 years, but it does not go far at all. If the basic building blocks are not in place, people can't return to familiar ways, especially if they need food and money to survive. People need to have financial resources on the day of their release, otherwise they are going to be set up to fail. If they don't have sufficient money or a home, it is really hard for people to move away from crime. The Department for Work and Pensions confirmed to the Huffington Post that prisoners cannot make a claim for universal credit whilst they are in prison and have to wait until release. A spokesman for the Department of Work and Pensions said, "Work coaches provide support to prisoners prior to their release to make their claim for benefits. This includes support in gathering all the details and documentation needed to make their universal credit claim and booking an appointment at a local job centre on the day of release so they can access support, including applying for advance payments of up to 100% immediately if needed. We're consistently exploring how we can improve the support for claimants and prison leavers, including a wider national partnership to support more prisoners into employment across England and Wales." That's the story, guys. Now, I did quite well there because I was dying to jump in and interrupt the story at numerous points because it's bollocks what they're saying. Oh, yeah, we've got this to set up and stuff, and when prisoners are leaving and they get this and that. Oh, you kicked out the door with £46. They don't even ask if you've got somewhere to live. Unless you're going into a bail hostel, and then you know you're going into a bail hostel. But again, guys, what you've got to think of, right, is the whole system's broken. The penal system, the prison system is as broken as those entering it, right? You've got to think, guys, before offenders were ever offenders, they was first victims, right? A lot of them, there's a high percentage of prisoners, I can't remember the exact percent, to be honest, but there's a very high percentage of prisoners that are not illiterate, that are illiterate, sorry. They can't read or write, they're dyslexic for all intensive purposes. And then they're requested to, you've got to do all this online, and it's going to go over them. You've got people with behavioural problems, with learning difficulties, with things like autism and Asperger's syndrome. And not everyone that leaves prison, guys, right? This is one thing that people seem to think. Everyone leaves prison and they've got a home to go to and a loving family. No, 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 no. A lot of people leave prisons, guys, and through being involved in criminality, the family connections, the family ties are broken down, or the missus has had enough and kicked them out. Like, look, I'm washing my hands of you, don't want to know you. So a lot of people are homeless upon release, and they've got no support network behind them, right? And it's very scary. And if you haven't got an address, how can you claim benefits if you haven't got an address? You can't. Simple. And every prisoner should leave prison, should have somewhere to live and sleep, right? Even if it's a hostel, right? These bail hostels, guys, that people get put in are set up to fail. You've got people that have been sexually abused, like prisoners that have been raised in care because they were taken away from the parents because they were sexually abused or something, and they're put in hostels with fucking nonces, with bacons, with rapists, with kiddie fiddlers, right? And if you don't engage with them, you call them a nonce, and then the fucking probation say, if you call them a nonce again, we're going to recall you because you're not playing the game. I mean, this is the way it goes, guys. If you haven't got a foundation to work up from, you slip straight back into the cracks of destitution and homelessness and poverty. And then, like I say, I've seen people go to prison and have addictions. I've seen people go to prison having never taken drugs in their life and are leaving as addicts or worse in body bags. And if you leave prison with an addiction and you get £46, example, the day I was released from prison, in our little group of 10 that was being released, one of the kids said, I'm going straight down to Cheetham Mill, to Betty New Road, I'm going to score some spice. And he's going to fall back into the gutter. So, and then how did he feed that habit, guys? Once that £46's gone, how did he feed that habit? Yes, you guessed it. They revert back to type and they go back to crime. That's why reoffending rates are so high. That's why it costs the taxpayer £15 billion a year. And like I say, the system's flawed, guys. It really, really is. It is flawed. And like I say, 5 weeks is a minimum to get money from the universal credit. I've seen that you can get like advance payments and stuff, but if you haven't got an address, how can they chase you up for that? So they're not going to give it you, are they? No. So it's inevitable that you're going to revert back to crime, get breached, get recalled, and end up back in prison. Revolving door. And then what happens then? The next time you get released, is everything in place for you? Is the foundation there? No. So you're kicked out again with another £46. You go straight back to the same dealer, you buy the same drugs, you end up back in the gutter, you steal, you break into, like, could be a commercial burglary, could be a car theft, do you know what I mean? Breaking into a car, stealing satellite navigation system, shoplifting from like Boots, aftershaves, going into the pubs on the, like, in the city centre, the rough pubs. Do you want to buy this, mate, for a tenner? So that tenner will go to drugs. So it's crime, and it's a vicious cycle, guys. And that's why we're prison's revolving door. And then they'll go back to prison again, and then they'll be kicked out with another £46, and they'll go back to crime, and then they'll go back to prison and back to crime, and then. But the government are the ones that can interject and actually make a difference and change these, like people's lives, because they've got that much power. Because rehabilitation, guys, at the end of the day, is a made-up word. It is a politician's word. It doesn't go on. Rehabilitation happens in a very small percentage, and prisoners don't think, oh, you know what, yeah, prison's rehabilitating me. All it is, they become to a point where they think, you know what, I'm sick of playing this fucking game, or I've got a missus now, and I've got a kid on the way, so I'm not going to do this no more. They just mature, and they get sick of playing the game, because it's a young man's game, prison. I mean, it's a mug's game. Long term, it's a mug's game, right? And like I say, but the system's broken, guys. And then the government, like I say, oh yeah, they're offenders. And they roll out these generic bullshit lines that they say. And the truth is, they haven't got a fucking clue. They're residing over people. The Ministry of Justice, people like the Justice Secretary David Gork or the Prisons Minister Rory Stewart, they're residing over people like you and me. They can't relate to us, guys. They're born with silver spoons in the mouth. I can't relate to their life because I've never been a snobby, rich, toffee-nosed bastard. And they can't relate to us that have grown up in the gutter, but looking at the stars with fuck all, do you know what I'm saying? Struggling to put food on the table, having to do a bit of this, having to do a bit of that. They don't know nothing of our life and they're residing over us. Academic qualifications does not put these people in a position to reside over human beings that they can't relate to. No. But unfortunately, that is what happens. On that note, guys, going to leave it here. Link in the description. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.